All right, welcome to the Ricochet community call. Sonny's not here today, so I'm taking over. And unfortunately, there is a fire alarm drill in my building, so you might hear the beeping in the background, or you might not. Um, anyway, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we have Sam from, I think Sam's here from Superfluid.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So we're going to talk about the Build It hackathon and some of the Ricochet bounties that they're putting up. And then we're going to talk about what we've been discussing with BUIDL. Not sure if people saw the tweet. We got a nice tweet with our logo on with a bunch of other cool projects. And then I'm just going to roll through some of the specifications for what we're going to call V2. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll just summarize what's been going on with the Bounty Hunters program. And then, yeah, after that, we'll just answer questions. So Sam, we put this slide together, which just kind of at a high level has the idea, some of the ideas that we had, and the prize information that you gave us. But why don't I hand the floor over to you, and you could go ahead and share, Superfluid details with all the guests.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate it. So we wanted to, for this hackathon, normally what we do is we just have kind of generic prizes to give people some direction, but we wanted to kind of help you guys out and introduce Ricochet to a larger audience, particularly with this group this is a very India focused hackathon, and it's going to be very, very big. So we want to hopefully increase the reach you guys have, let more people understand what Ricochet is, at least pique people's curiosity, and then ideally get some kind of good project out of this as well. So I think the ideas here seem pretty interesting. Actually, I'm reading through these right now in real time. I like some of these, but what I'll do here for you guys is I'll put this little article, one in the chat, so you guys can read through just like, what is this hackathon? How is Superfluid participating? What does this prize look like? Yep, right here. They've got some good branding here. I like the retro, like 1990s gaming vibes they've got. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good event. You guys can check out the Discord as well. I'll send over the Discord link as well in the bounties chat you guys have in the Discord. And you guys are welcome to join, kind of pop in there, see different teams start to kind of form. But what we tend to do during hackathons is take a fairly active role in helping teams get formed and actually helping like teams like ship code and actually build stuff. So I'll be in the weeds helping out with that. You guys are welcome to as well. And then throughout the event, I can give you guys some updates on any kind of things we're seeing built on Ricochet, or whether there's any questions about Ricochet in general. So yeah, that's a little short overview, but hopefully something cool comes out of it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And I'll also add, here are some of the ideas we have. I'm available to help, get things released and get things cleaned up, review code. And then, we also have our ongoing bounties program, which is sort of outside the scope of the hackathon, but there might be things in there that will qualify for both. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So, and yeah, anyway, I hope we find some more contributors out of this. I think people have been having a lot of fun contributing and getting some RIC tokens and seeing the product evolve. So that's all good. All right, well, cool. Sam, any other thoughts?
No, nothing for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm just Sam F Super. There's another Sam on Superfluid's team technically, so I have the Sam F. So you guys can see me in Discord. Just feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to help you guys out. So yeah, I appreciate the floor here for a couple minutes. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, man. See ya.
All right. So what's next? Right. So we got this awesome tweet from the BUIDL finance people. We've been in Sonny and I, they set up a little group chat on Discord. So we've been talking about it. And yeah, I'll just go through some of the things that they were interested in and, some of the things that we're going to put on our agenda to do in the near future, because we're already capable of doing these things. So yeah, they do run a grants program. They have this sort of incentivized program kickoff. You can see this is the image from their tweet. It was really nice getting our logo alongside popular projects like Harvest and 88 MPH, and I forget what the other one there is, Pool Together. And in general, what we're going to do in the short term is just set up a stream market where people can invest in BUIDL using the pattern that we've been using, streaming dollars in. And we're also going to set up a Rex LP market where you can stream into idle ETH, which will be staked in SushiSwap. So you'll earn, in addition to streaming into the liquidity pool tokens, you'll also earn the Sushi and the Matic, and that will be automatically harvested and show up in your wallet. So you'll stream into those LP tokens, you'll get back LP tokens, Sushi, and Matic tokens. And I think the plan, I'm not sure what the plan is yet for subsidies. I think we're still kind of figuring that out, but the plan is both of us, Idle and Ricochet, will then on top of that add some subsidized, as is the way we do the other stream exchange markets, which emit some RIC. And in a longer term, the real integration that we're going to want to work on is getting it so that you can stream into the idle tokens. And if you're not familiar with the idle tokens, they're essentially yield aggregating tokens. So if you put DAI into idle DAI, idle then kind of optimizes for how to allocate that across the DeFi ecosystem. I think popular projects they use are like Aave, Compound, and sort of just kind of checking the rates across them and kind of mixing, to get a good yield. So, so we're excited to integrate with those as well. I believe those earn subsidies. So I believe they earn Matic subsidies on Polygon. So those idle, when we wrap those tokens as Rex tokens, we'll also have the ability for you to get the automatic harvesting. So your yield shows up in real time. I think it's just Matic. I'm not sure if there are idle subsidies on Polygon. I think the idle token subsidies are just on mainnet. So, but still, there's some Matic coming in, so there will be like an additional yield on top of the base yield. And then they saw that we had the Rex Bank. I didn't necessarily like advertise that in our conversation, but they like that as an interesting thing. It's sort of a project financed lending protocol, right? The project team is supposed to put up the borrowing liquidity, and then they're supposed to accept their own token as collateral. So in the future, in the longer term, I could see us getting something like that set up as well. We had a small discussion about that. So yeah, that's pretty much all we sort of chatted about. And it's exciting. I mean, it was really cool. Idle financed the project. I remember when they launched, I farmed a bunch of Idle. I really liked how easy their idle DAI product was to just kind of get a good yield. The only reason I stopped was because ETH gas fees got so high. So now that they're on Polygon, it's great. You could just resume where I sort of left off with that project. All right. So other forward-looking statements. So right now, with respect to version 2 specifications, right now we have 4 live products that we're using that we've created. The first is our classic, Rex market. That's sort of the headliner, which is you can stream into, ETH and stream into Bitcoin, divert a portion of your stream salary. We also have the Rex Launchpad, which was sort of our second product offering. This is more not necessarily for, well, it is for, your normal investor who wants to do ICO kind of stuff, but this is really for project teams. And it solves a problem of miner extractable value. Completely eliminates miner extractable value from the whole Launchpad process, makes it so that all of the liquidity goes directly to the project team. There aren't any like scalpers in there, giving people a bad experience. And then also it kind of aligns incentives by extending the ICO process. So teams don't come into a ton of money very quickly. And then potentially the incentives, once they come into all that money, there's really there's an incentive to take the money and not work on the project, which we saw, all of like 2013 and again in 2018. So yeah, this sort of extends that out and kind of aligns incentives so the project team is making like subsidized revenue rather than kind of getting a lump sum. So it's probably something that'll produce a better experience. And then the 2 newest things that we've done was this, what we're calling Rex LP. This is essentially a real-time yield aggregating tokens. So this is the idea that you can stream into a liquidity pool, and you can stream into a liquidity pool that is staked, and you can then Ricochet, we can then stream back the rewards, right? So rather than you harvesting the rewards, we can just harvest the rewards for everyone and then use our existing, kind of process to periodically distribute the rewards back to people. And in that way, we reduce a ton of transactions. So if we have 100 people all trying to farm the same LP token, we're going to roll all that into like one transaction, pay everyone, rather than everyone doing these transactions all the time. So yeah, that's the Rex LP. And then the last thing is, this is an old project that I had done previously. It uses Teller. It's very similar to the way we use Teller for Rex markets, but it's a fixed rate, collateral backed, and owner funded lending contract. And what that really means is what we're using it for now is the contributors earn RIC tokens. RIC tokens are essentially like our community token, governance token. And there's no market to sell the RIC tokens, and the team isn't responsible for market making. That's just up to the market, whatever they want to do. But what we are responsible for is figuring out what to do with the proceeds of our token sales, figuring out what to do with our fees. And so the most logical thing to me seemed like, well, we can basically, RIC tokens do have a price because we're doing this Launchpad demo, and so we can let our contributors, let our RIC token holders tap into the funds, right? There's no reason that liquidity just sits there. It's doing nobody any good. We have about $30,000 in liquidity right now. Some of it, a good portion of it, about 13,000 of that 30,000 is in make or die liquidity pool. And we need to leave that there. So, free float, there's another, 17,000 that we could allocate to let people borrow and put down RIC in order to borrow. And that actually is, I think, going to be really helpful. I know a lot of people who are contributing, like me, when I was first contributing to projects. You probably want to sell it to pay rent and buy groceries and, maybe upgrade your life, right? So, we can't really offer a place to buy back our token. That's not what I really want to see us doing. So what we can do instead is, offer people a way to get liquidity by borrowing against their RIC. And in that way, contributors don't need to sell their RIC in order to tap liquidity in order to upgrade their life or just keep living, right? So I was a contributor once to a project that I wasn't really like a core team member on. And at that time, I was basically had to sell all my tokens to just pay rent and eat. So, I know that I've been there, and it does suck to go back to some of those transactions to see that, like, you $500 that you sold, it's like a swap that says you swapped like $25,000 to like $500. And it's just like the worst experience in the world. So anyway, that's the last thing that we have as a product, which is Rex Bank. And like I said earlier, people have been interested in using it. I mean, I think project teams who do the Launchpad, the Rex Bank is a natural like sidecar to that, because you can use the proceeds of the sale to kickstart a borrow lending market. And the longer you have a borrow lending, and you as the project team assume the risk of that borrow lending market, but that shouldn't be a problem if you're a good project, right? So yeah, I could see in the future both of those products going hand in hand, because it helps. This is a fixed rate, collateral backed, owner funded. So the owner of the bank, people can make these things via a factory. The owner of the bank provides all the liquidity, therefore they assume all the risk. They're the one loaning out their own money. So it's very different from these money markets in the sense that if something does go belly up, there's only one person or one entity that's going to be impacted, and that would be the owner of the bank who set it up in the first place. But the idea would be that if you can run a Rex Bank, successfully for a longer period of time, well, there's a case to be made that you would be fine going to one of these other platforms like Aave or something more complicated, because you've been running your own market, you've been making your own income via lending your own money. So that's sort of where Rex Bank fits into this. It's kind of more closely aligned with the Launchpad rather than the markets and the liquidity pool positions. So that's what we have, right? As far as a version 2 goes, really what I have here is I have these requirements that I wrote up as far as what's in scope for version 2. We want to try to get this done and out by the end of January, kind of kick off the new year, right? And basically it's split into two sections because we have two different things going on. We have the D app, which is our app.ricochet site. And then we have our contracts, which are the things that get deployed on chain. As far as the app goes, the first three items in the table are essentially just bringing all the products into the single app and breaking them out so that they're obviously different things. Right now, like the Launchpad and Rex LP tokens, they're just sort of mixed in with our traditional Rex markets. So it's a little difficult to see that those are something different. So that's about splitting that up. And then the bank is its own app completely. It has its own front end. So you want to bring that in together. The things at the bottom are sort of completely new features. We don't really have anything going on for these, so they have to be done from scratch. This is an interactive stream manager where we want to be able to visualize what's going on in your flows. We want to improve the wallet page, basically show people's balances, because right now we don't show any balances. We just have this upgrade downgrade process. And then the last thing, which I think is actually one of the most important things, is creating this in-app experience or in-app cash on-ramp experience. And for this, we've been looking at, and I think I'm going to basically make a decision to say we're going to go with Ramp. We're going to integrate with something like Ramp Capital or Ramp Network, which does a Stripe style interface where they sort of pop up a widget, you put in your information, and then it sends it to your MetaMask account on Polygon. And the reason to go with Ramp Network is just that they're the most flexible. They have a JavaScript SDK, and even though they don't support US to Polygon, so if you're a US citizen, you can't get right onto Polygon, but there's the rest of the world to think about. And then also we know where this is going, which is that everyone's going to eventually offer, US dollar or Polygon on ramps for US citizens. It's only a matter of time. I'm not sure what the hang up is, but we can I assume that will happen in the near future. So that's the decentralized app side. On the contract side, I mean, the first thing is really just this kind of a housekeeping thing, which is we need to coalesce all these projects together into a single repo, have all of our tests and all of our contracts in a single repo, so it's not so scattered. You have issues in this repo, issues in that repo. We'll just have one repository, all the issues for the contracts. And then the other things below it are sort of new features, things that we don't do now that we would like to do. And a lot of them are just sort of technical feats, like internal swaps. There is a little bit of advantage in the sense that we can eliminate some of the sushi swap or exchange fees by matching liquidity internally. But it's not so important. We already kind of can support two-sided swaps. So, the internal swaps is something that I think we should do just because it's what people expect to be happening. And it's in the long run, I think it'll actually save some money on fees. So the other thing is a referral system. So Sunny has done similar referral systems for Superfluid integrations and things, streaming payments. So he has a little bit of experience with this, but what we're really looking for here is like the FTX style referral experience. Now our system is not, you wouldn't be referring traders really. What you would be doing is you'd be referring like investors, or like if you're someone who works with employers, you could refer those people. You could onboard a whole company of people to Ricochet, and you could receive a perpetual reward by onboarding that company or those employees, right? So, if you go, this sort of creates a third or another role within the community. This creates kind of like a marketing and sales role, and it rewards, it's going to reward pretty well too, because the way these things will sort of persist. If you refer someone, their address will sort of forever persist as crediting you for the referral income. And then the other change is sort of doing the fee distributions with the IDAs rather than ERC20 transfers. That'll just reduce gas pretty significantly. And then we also want to, this is probably the largest change at the bottom, just refactoring all the contracts to support like Yearn style strategists. So what this really means is it means implementing a base set of functionality and then allowing strategists or Solidity engineers to essentially extend those base contracts with the base Ricochet functionality, and then implement custom integrations with other services, right? So the way it'll work is there'll sort of be I'll show you on the next slide. So that's at a high level all the things rolling up into V2 and sort of solidified in text so that we're all on the literal same page. Just to highlight a few of those things a little deeper, I'll kind of go through this with the V2 contracts, just 3 images about 3 different features. The first one here on this side is really just has to do with the way internal swaps work. So just sort of as a demonstration, you have a 2-sided contract with 2 input streams. The liquidity doesn't match because there's probably more people buying US dollar coin than selling ETH, right? There will always be some kind of mismatch. It's unlikely that they'll ever be like totally equal. And so what we do here is we basically, rather than swapping both amounts on SushiSwap, what we do is we sort of match the liquidity, right? So there's enough US dollar coin here to swap for this amount of ETH. So we just take those chunks and sort of bring them over to the output side. And then what we do is the difference, we take the difference and then we swap that on SushiSwap. So if you see here, rather than paying fees on, the whole sum, we're paying swap fees on a fraction of that sum. And that'll reduce the amount that that'll reduce the amount of fees for people doing these swaps because we won't go to the market, we'll just match internally. The contracts up here, this contract code, this is just sort of a visualization of what I mean by sort of allowing strategists to extend this base functionality. So I sort of, there's really only 2 methods that we have that are customizable. The first one is a distribute method, which is how do the tokens get distributed to the people, right? So that handles the swapping if they're swapping, and it'll handle sending the tokens to people. And then the other thing would be the a harvest function. So some strategies or some, implementations of markets will be real-time yield farming, Rex LP style tokens. And so strategists will implement their own harvest function, right? And then, the way you sort of use this is you just make your own contract, give it a name, and then you extend the base, right? And here, the way that it works in Yearn is they sort of have like a base Yearn contract. And then on top of that, they have like a base SushiSwap contract. And then they extend that for like all of the different liquidity pools on SushiSwap that they're interested in. And I shouldn't always say Yearn, I should say Pickle. I actually am looking at Pickle for a lot of this stuff. I don't know why I don't go right to Yearn, but I'm pretty sure they do the similar strategies that way. And then down here, this is just sort of what I was kind of highlighting about affiliate programs, which is to say that like, I do think the affiliate fee split should be like 10%. I don't think we need like lower than anything. It should be like enough of an incentive. And so the way that this would work out is when we do these distributions, we're going to, carve out as part of the IVA shares in the pool. There's always going to be 2% allocated to fees, right? We're going to take a 2% fee. And then of that 2% fee, 90% is going to be distributed to the DAO. And then depending on, XY affiliates referrals, right? So X has referred more, income. They referred $12,000 a month, whereas affiliate Y only referred $5,000 a month. So the fee, the 2% fee, we then split that, 90-10 with the affiliates, and the affiliates will take their share as credited via the referral system. So that's just sort of a visualization of some of the more complicated ones in the contract. And then I have something similar for the DApp, right? So with the DApp, the main thing is with the streams, we really want to have this interface where, especially, I don't think we can do this on mobile, but it'd be so hard to do it on mobile, but on desktop, we should have this stream interface so people can start to visualize. Eventually, there will be a way to essentially loop back, right? So because some of your outputs will be multiple tokens, you'll not just be receiving, LP tokens, you'll be receiving LP tokens, Sushi and Matic. And so over time, we think you can kind of make a loop, right? So you can kind of stream, you can kind of create your own real-time yield aggregating and handle how you want to deal with the outputs. So that's sort of that feature where we want to do the stream visualization. This is a picture of the bank, the way the bank looks like. This is the experience of a lender, of a borrower, right? So, I'm a contributor. I have tokens just from, yield farming. And so I have like 3,300 RIC. And so if I deposit that here, if I deposit in the bank, I can borrow against it, right? So I can borrow like $650, which is about 60% of the value of the RIC tokens. And you see I get like a collateralization ratio. It tells me my liquidation price. And this is just an app that was created previously that I had, and I rolled it into Ricochet to essentially solve the liquidity for bounty hunters, right? So we can give bounty hunters a way to get liquidity until, you know, maybe a market develops or something like that. And so we want to roll all of this into the main app. And then this is essentially an improvement on the wallet page. We really just need to copy this. I mean, I do this myself where like I go to Ricochet to manage some streams, and then I go to Superfluid to kind of look at my wallet balances. But we shouldn't have people have to leave the app. We really want to be like the one-stop shop. You know, you can do everything you need to do here. So I think we should just take this feature and sort of integrate it into our product on the wallet page. Much better experience as far as upgrading and downgrading, depositing and withdrawing, things like that. All right. Yeah, so the last thing I have, and then I'll open the floor for questions, is just summary of like what's going on with the bounty hunters. But first of all, I'm really happy that people are into this and people have been kind of going after the bounties. I think it's going to work out very well for everyone who's involved. You know, it might take 3 months, 6 months, but it should work out really well. So far we have about 3,750 RIC tokens that were earned. Off the top of my head, I don't actually know how much that is in dollars. The top earner is Joe. So Joe is currently the top bounty hunter with 2,150 of those tokens. I think, Joe, we have to pay out some more tokens though. I think there's still some of that 2,000 pending. And then, you know, there's also $6,000 in open bounties on the front end, right? So the front end issues involve React issues. So there's a bunch of open bounties there for different things. They range anywhere between, you know, $250 up to $1,000. And I think there might even be one for higher than $1,000. I think there's one for integrating with Ramp Network. That's like, I think I tied a $2,500 bounty to it because it's so important. As far as the future of the bounties program goes, so this is sort of a new thing. I haven't really done this. I've done lots of like, you know, version 2, version 3, whatever stuff, but this is really the first time where there aren't like full-time people other than myself and Sonny. And Sonny's still a student, so he's as full-time as he can be. But yeah, so the idea, I'm going to try using the bounties program to see if we can sort of crowdsource the work. And the way I'm thinking about doing that is essentially just tying really large bounties to these issues, because, you know, the reality is if I were to go contract these issues out, it would be a large amount, right? You're talking about hiring someone for $60, $100 an hour to do some of this work. So I think it's fair to tie these really large bounties to these issues, right? So some of the harder ones or more ones I think are more difficult will get higher amounts, but I think they're going to be in this 5 to 10K range. So you're looking at, you know, if there's like 10 requirements across both sides of the app, front and back end, you know, so we may end up spending, you know, they're not all going to be $10,000 issues, but there's like a max. If we made it so that each, you know, section was $10,000 task, you know, that'd be $100,000. And, you know, the RIC treasury in RIC tokens has like what's the price today? It's like 25 cents a RIC. So it's like almost got $2 million of RIC in there because the DAO still owns 80% of the tokens. So there's plenty of RIC to go around. So allocating this much RIC is no problem at all. No problem at all. In fact, allocating less RIC, I think, would be a mistake. Just because I think this work is real. It warrants being paid a real price. This isn't something that we're trying to skimp on. You know, there's no penny pinching here. The RIC isn't doing anyone any good. You want to be sustainable, so everyone's going to get paid a good amount. As far as future things too, is I think we need to find a way to transition contributors to members of the Ricochet organization in GitHub so that they can help us better manage the issues. I'm not sure that if you're not a member of the organization, you can do things like add labels, close issues. I'm not sure you can do that kind of stuff, but we definitely need help there. So I think it would be best we try to figure out the way to do that. I think we could just give everyone like right access to the repos and then just do like protected main branch, right? We just make the main branch protected. Everyone becomes a member. They can write into the repos, but the main branches are all protected by, like, you have to have an approved pull request. Yeah, and then the last two things, monthly bonuses and Coordinate. So Coordinate is something on mainnet that they use, and it's a way for essentially like people to peer-to-peer, credit people for work. So the way I understand it, I might not get it 100% right, is there's basically like an epoch period of time. During that period of time, each member of the team is like given certain allocation points, and then they can choose to allocate those points to different team members, right? And based on the allocation points, there's like a pool of money that then is split, weighted across according to the allocation points. So if you're doing really good and there's other people involved, they will essentially give you their allocation points. And so you'll make of the pie, that epoch, right? Maybe there's like $100,000 in that epoch, you'll receive, your fraction of that. So I think we could do something like that as well. And I think what we could do is on a monthly cadence, we can basically say, all right, how much have people earned in bounties proportional to Rick, right? So if someone's earned 1,000 Rick, someone else earns 1,000 Rick, we can just split the bonus 50-50 at the end of the month. And I just think, again, like going back to, how do we sustain everything under a DAO model where we can't pay people salaries or anything. I think this will help, right? Because I don't think continuing to work for, $250, $500, even $1,000 here, and here, that is a good incentive, but it is still a lot of work. And it doesn't give you any long-term incentive. So at least with this, if you're a contributor and you contribute a little bit one month, at the end of the month, you'll get kind of a retroactive reward, right? According to your weighting and how much work other people did. So you'll notice that if there's a month where not a lot of people are doing a lot of work, there's going to be a big bonus that's only going to go to like 2 or 3 people who have done, only like a couple $100s of work. So I think this will also kind of create this sort of incentive system where people are going to get paid for the work that they do. And then if they, continue to do work consistently relative to other contributors, they're going to get big bonuses, right? So for example, like Joe, who obviously deserves a massive bonus, and we should give him a massive bonus, maybe like 14,000 Rick or whatever he salvaged for us. He's done like 2/3 of he's done like the majority of all the Rick. So if we did like a bounty pool at the end of the month, he would receive the biggest portion of it. And rightly so, he deserves it. So anyway, that's the bounty hunter program, and that's my update. So that's it. I think the last slide here is just sort of a wrap up of the community call. I hope you all enjoyed it. I tried to go quickly so that we could just spend the rest of the time doing questions or anything. And yeah, David, I see your comment. Thanks. That's flattering. You're really impressed with this, so I appreciate it. So yeah, we can open up the floor to questions. I guess we'll take a couple, we'll take questions while the recording's on, and then I'll stop the recording and we can answer more questions. So yeah, I'll open the floor. I see a bunch of people are here. Does anyone have any questions or anything? I hope people do. Or maybe I did just such a good job that there won't be any questions.
I got 2 questions. Hi, everyone. So one is around onboarding. I saw that Zerion app uses MoonPay for credit card onboarding and Ramp network for bank onboarding.
Yeah.
What is everyone's feeling about MoonPay? Are they good? Should we consider them to add them as well for the at least US, I think?
As far as I know, they're fine. MoonPay has been around for a while. I think they originally started as like an invoicing system, because that's how I remember them when I was doing contract work. It was a way I could invoice people. I ended up going with QuickBooks instead. So yeah, I think MoonPay is great. The only thing is, like, the reason that I have these tables here is because I just want to make sure we don't try to do 2 of the same thing at once. So integrating with MoonPay and integrating with Ramp are 2 separate things that should be done serially. And I think we should do Ramp network first. I think, because when I look into it, there's a lot of flexibility and it's a very good looking project. The technical, from my review, the technicals fit right in line with what we're sort of looking for. And then I think we should do MoonPay, after that, if we need to, because by the time we get, you're talking about things 3 months out, right? So well, 2.5 months out, right? So end of January. By the time end of January comes, it may be the case that we finish Ramp network integration. And what do you know? They also now support, credit cards and US based buying of Polygon tokens. So yeah, that's what I would say to that. I think we should do it, but I think we should put it behind. So basically, like, don't put it in version 2. Like, after we have version 2 out with Ramp network, then if we need to add in MoonPay. And I think we should, if we get to the point where we have Ramp network integrated, let's say 3 months from now, and they're not offering features that MoonPay is offering, then yeah, I think it makes sense that we should put a big bounty out and we should have someone try to integrate MoonPay. But I don't know, I could see it being the other way, which is like 3 months from now, we integrate with Ramp. It takes us a little while to do it. I mean, it might not take that long, actually. I've seen the integration. So, but you can see how in a couple months they might support these things. And I haven't looked at the MoonPay. I haven't looked at the MoonPay technicals. Do you know, George, if they have like a similar? Because I know you saw the Ramp one. Do you know, does MoonPay have like a similar setup?
Yeah, I didn't look at it either. I just saw
Yeah.
it and I didn't realize they are not even a crypto, originally not a crypto company. That's
Right.
cool. I just thought, like, let's say, okay, we integrate Ramp. Do we know any good analytics tools to know that people are using Ramp? Because I don't think on chain we'll be able to see that.
Yeah, so I think the best way to do that would just be build it into the app. I'm not really interested in building trackers that use cookies and things, but it's because of the way that they set up Ramp network with the JavaScript SDK. It would be non-trivial for us to essentially, every time someone uses Ramp, record that somewhere. There's already a lot going on with the Keeper, and that has a database. So there already is like a relational database in the mix. So I don't think it would be terribly difficult to set up another relational database. And, there are SDKs and things for this. One that I've used before is called Segment. So Segment has kind of like this tracking involved. I do think it uses cookies. I do think it does some of that kind of tracking and tracks IPs, which I'm not really, a fan of. I think a lot of people are not a fan of that.
Yeah, like an open source, some kind of open source analytics would be cool to find for this.
Yeah, and if we can't,
exists.
exactly, and if we can't find something that meets, sort of what I would like to see from a privacy perspective, it again wouldn't be terrible for us to build something simple, a little endpoint that we can just hit and send analytics messages to. I've done the same thing before because, this isn't the first time I had this privacy requirement. Though hopefully the tooling has gotten better. We don't have to write our own private one. So I see a question in the chat here. Can you test out the UI where you do want feedback given, just the general channel on Discord or development? Yeah, I think if there's any feedback on the UI, I think the best place would be like development. I don't think the general channel is the best place for feedback on the UI. I think probably development, bounties, those two channels are probably the best place to have discussions like that. Bounties, I think, and development tend to have very similar conversation, though, there's a lot of bounty announcements that we're just putting in the bounties channel. And Brian, thanks for joining. He asked about Dune Analytics. It's still on my agenda to sort of get, and I should have added this on the bounties page, it's still on my agenda to get Dune Analytics bounties set up, because we do broadcast events. You can kind of see what's going on with Ricochet without that much work, right? Because when things happen, the events are getting logged, and the events include, what's the streamer streaming, and also how much is being streamed. So you can very easily plot the stream amount over time by just looking at the event logs, which is a very, very low hanging Dune Analytics task, but very high value if we can get that chart set up so we can see all the markets and how they're growing and shrinking over time. So yeah, look for that bounty. So thanks for mentioning the Dune Analytics. What else? Other questions?
I got a quick one. How about Ethereum 2.0 staking market. Is that something that's doable? Because I heard that
great question.
there's no decentralized staking currently exists in the world. So maybe it's not yet possible because there's not a product to
Yeah,
integrate with.
what we have out there is they're essentially like yield bearing wrapped ETH, right? That's what these ETH2 staking solutions are. They give you a token, I think I'm simplifying that a little bit, but they give you a token, and that is essentially a coupon for some ETH plus a yield. And different projects have different rules around how that yield is delivered to the token holder, or the depositor, the staker. What's typically done though is, and I think Brian, we were literally just talking about this the other day, was people will make liquidity pools for these staked tokens so that people can essentially sell their staked tokens, right? So those liquidity pools are also sometimes incentivized, right? So there's like staked ETH paired with ETH, and that will have like a sushi swap yield farm or something like that, or it'll be, you could deposit it over here. So that fits our model just fine. I personally don't use those staking things because, well, one, I don't really stake the ETH I have, and two, they are mostly custodial, and they could, things could go very badly for those products. I don't think people realize the inherent risk that you take on, because there's someone operating machines somewhere, and that is funds at risk. So nonetheless, we could definitely do it. There's probably a demand for it for sure. People would love to, stream US dollars into staked ETH and earn yield even better. So yeah, I think we might want to look at that. But for now, I think the priority is like people who come inbound. So people who show up or are referred by Superfluid, project teams that want to, work with us and do like, share marketing, because what I'm realizing is all these project teams, what they really want is they're going to Polygon, or they're launching on Polygon or whatever. And what they want is they want to have fun things to do with their token on Polygon. Now, fun things, that might not be how people like to say it, but essentially they want to show up on Polygon and already be deeply integrated, right? So that people on Polygon are incentivized to buy the token because there's yield and blah, blah, blah. And so we have a really good offering for that with our Rex market. We can set it up so people can DCA into your token. We can set it up so people can DCA into liquidity pools. And, there's plenty of other things that we could do. Yeah, so Brian, WST ETH DAI pool on Sushi ETH mainnet. So there's probably a very similar something on Polygon with those staked ETH products. So yeah, great question, George. What else? Other questions? Oh, is that it? All right, I'll pause the recording. If anyone wants to ask more questions, stick around for a while. So that's it. Thanks for calling the community call number 7. Thanks everyone who was here, and I appreciate all the questions. Very good. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll do community call number 8, and I think next week on Thursday we'll start meeting for version 2, right? So there's like a developer call, I think we're calling it, or contributor call. I forget how we branded it, but we'll do that on Thursday mornings, I think. So keep an eye out for that, because we're going to start moving forward on the version 2, and yeah, and with version 2, we're going to have to kind of meet and discuss technicals and things like that. So that's what that call will be for. And that will, I think, be a week. I think we're going to just do that weekly. So we'll do a weekly developer call. The expectation isn't that the community is there all the time. It probably won't be recorded, just because we're going to go over a bunch of technical stuff. I don't want to like accidentally record someone's private key or something. So, but anyway, that's it. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for watching. All right, so let me pause this now. Stop.